I was around 5. I didn't know what was going on.
I then realized that my future was already damaged because I became HIV positive.
22 women are raped daily in Zimbabwe, 1 every 75 minutes, and 646 every month. The big question is, in 2022, why do we see rape cases going up? Could it be the justice system that has failed us? Is it the perpetrator? Could it be the victim's fault? Or could it possibly be our culture? On the Game Changer documentary, we step into the shoes of victims and survivors of rape. They help us come up with solutions, but they also expose the serious challenges within our families and within the justice system. Join me.
At 7 years old, she was abused. She was threatened, and because of fear, she did not say anything. Even though she managed to run away, she had to face her demons again. With no shoulder to lean on and no one to tell. She was only a child when she contracted HIV and AIDS.
It was on a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. I had gone to visit my grandma's place, and there was this boy who was herding their cattle. At that time I was 7 years old, and he asked me to accompany him to herd the cattle. So being young, you know, I was just excited to go because we called him uncle, and we went. And when we were there, he started touching me, and I was like, uncle, what are you doing? And he was like, don't you want to play with me? And I'm like, what's really happening? And then at that time, he raped me. And because of fear, he said, don't tell anyone, because if you do, I will beat you till you are dead. Because of fear, I told no one. And this happened several times, but I was afraid to tell anyone. But inside, I was really hating, like, what is going to happen to me? What is going to be my future be? Or how am I going to be accepted by the one who's going to, who I was going to get married to? I was confused, you know, being, both of my parents were dead. And, you know, I was afraid. You know, I had heard of men sleeping with ladies or people talking, but at that time I didn't really understand it. It didn't really register. I was in pain, and I couldn't tell anyone because of the family situations. My parents passed away when I was very young. So I had no shoulder to lean on or no shoulder to cry on. So it was really painful. Later on, I decided to run away from that rural area. I ran away. I came to Harare, and then somebody else took us and saying, I want to go and show them my rural home, you know, the Sawiras in Shona. I went there, and they had their only son living there. He was quite old, and he lived there alone. So I was me and my sister. The lady just left us there, and she came back to Harare. And we were like, now we are living here again. This guy drinks cachasu, he gets drunk. And I'm like, oh God, is the same thing going to happen again to me? Like what happened before? At that time, I was 9. Then I was 9. And I'm like, I have got no one to tell. But he was not the one who did it, but his friends that he came with. One night, as we were sleeping, we were sleeping on the floor, me and my sister, and he was touching my younger sister. And I was so frightened. I'm like, I don't want her to go through the same pain that I went through, because I hadn't told her. So I was like, I came in between the two of them, him and her, because he was sleeping in the middle. He just came and then slept on the middle of us. And he raped me again. And I told no one. This affected me so much that because I told no one, I thank God that we were given the opportunity to go and be raised at a children's home. There I was tested. I was tested, everything. And I then realized that my future was already damaged because I became HIV positive. My future was, imagine at that age, at a 10-year-old being positive because of someone's negligence of just not appreciating, just, oh, you are young, you are a relative or something like that. Then I was like, the lady who tested me asked me several times, how did this happen? Did your mom drink tablets? And I'm like, both of my parents died when I was young, but I never saw them drinking in tablets. And she was like, were you raped? To her, because of the way she spoke to me, I felt wanted. I then opened up to her. And I had all sorts of diseases that needed to be treated. And I had some operations being done to me on my private parts. Those diseases, the warts, they were removed. Those diseases were brought by those men. But because I had no one to tell, it affected my life. It affected my future. Now, to be honest, I was so, even, I was so bitter with men. Even if a guy said he loved me, I didn't see the love in it. I just thought they wanted to use me. But I think the ACT people, when I came here, I learned to accept myself. I learned to forgive. I learned to just be me, to accept what happened and just leave it there and start living in the future. I was cancelled and I accepted everything. Now, even with my children, with my husband, now I'm, at that time, even if it comes to that time, I was like resisting. So I remember this other day, my husband was like, what's really happening? I'm like, I'm tired. But I was not I was not even open to him. But till I came here, I was cancelled. I was given some ideas on how to just let it go, to just be yourself and be cool. Now I'm free. Now I can even say hi to men freely. Not in the fear of, oh, are they having the same mind? Are they having the same attitude of those men that did these things to me?
With no one to support her as a teenage mother, circumstances forced her to go and work as house help. Her male employer raped her and left her pregnant.
Inini ndakaita mwana wangu ndichiri 17 years. Saka zvinhu zvaitika nezviti ndaitrya kuti ndihelpo maparents angu kuti ndiitengewo something kumwana wangu. Saka zvakandiita kuti ndiende kunoshanda at the age of 17. Saka pakushanda kwandaiita pane munhu angari wechirume pandaishandawo ndiye angari employer wangu. Saka handinyatsosiziva kuti chii chakanyatsomupinda kana chii chakaitika, handingazivi. Saka akazongoherekana aita sei handibata, then he raped me. Munhu uyu aingondisekerera, like kungosekerera ndisingazoziva hongu kuti zvine meaning. Aindisekerera, ndikamukumbira chinhu chandinenge ndamukumbira aindiitira and stuff. Saka ndandisingatoziva kuti zvinhu izvi zvinechi zvinenge zvina zvazvaida. Ndo zvakaitika. Saka after a while ndopa akazongoita sei paakazongondirepa. Ofishi tanga tingori 2, mukadzi wacho anga abuda. Anga abuda mukadzi wachona, angaenda kuprazi here because vane prazi ravo. Saka But that time andambozviita hangu serious. Ndakabva ndatoenda kumba kwedu and then ndatogara. Ndopa ndakazobva ndakuona kuti panapa pane zvinenge zvekuita sei pane masymptoms anga akuitika of which ndandane nhumbu at that time. Bandazotenga pregnant test, bandazoita sei, bandazotesta, bandatoona iri ndine nhumbu. Ndichibva ndazobva ndaenda kunotaura kumunhu uya ndikati munoziva zvakaitika, because ipapo ndakabva ndaregedza kuti ndobasa. Ndakabva ndangoregedza ndobasa zvokuti ndakangoudza gogo kuti handichada ite sei, handichada ndobasa. Ko chii? Ndakati handichada. Zvikanzi it's okay, gara hako. Ndibva ndatogara, then ndibva ndatozoenda kunoita sei kuzonomudza munhu yekuti inini hangu pane zvamakaita papaika inini ndane nhumbu handambozviita serious. And then ndatoudza mukadzi wachona, ndopandakabva ndatanga kuudza mukadzi wachona ndikati murume wenyu akaita sei, akandirepa dhei ramakaenda kupurazi kwenyu. So akati mukadzi wachona ndibva ndataura ndikati inini saka inini ndakuenda ndakandonomhangara kupolisi because inini zvandiri kuona nezvandirika hazvichaita sei, hazvichaita. Mukadzi wachona achibva atotaura kuti no, haufaniri kuenda unoripota, tofanira kuita sei, tofanira kungotaurirana kana pane chauri kuda uita sei ouya ndokupa. And then ini ndakangofunga kuti rege ndiende kupolisi. And ndakabva ndaenda unoripota kupolisi. Ndaripota kupolisi ndakabva ndanzi enda kuARC kuparenyatwa, ndakabva ndanyorerwa bepa ndichibva ndauya kunoku. And ndauya kunoku ndakasvika ndikatambirwa zvakanaka asingaiti zvekuti mubrain mangu ndandasitombori munhu anga aifunga zvinhu zvakanaka. Ndandangofunga zvinhu zviri negative zvega zvokuti kana kuzviuraya ndaifunga kana kuzviuraya kana kuuraya umwe munhu panguva ichineyo ndaikwanisa kuzviita. But ndakasvika kunoku ndichibva ndabatwa zvakanaka kuARC zvekuti ndakakanseliwa. Even dressing ndaidressa kunge ameno mumwe munhu handitomboziva kuti chichaita kuti ndofunga ndandauda kutopenga. But ndakasvika ndikabatsirwa zvekuti ndinoda kutenda sterekuvanhu veARC kuti vakandibatsira. Izvezvizvi ndatomunhu atori normal. Ndakatomboita kuti handichatomboita futi, handitombode kuona mukomana kana kuti kuenda kunoshanda kumba kwomunhu handichaita futi. But ndakatobatsirikana zvokuti izvezvizvi ndokwanisa kuenda kunoshanda, ndokwanisa kutoita boyfriend. Saka chanini chingodawo kuti vamwe vanhu vaite tofanira kurumidza kutaura nyaya dzedu kuti munhu akarepwa ngatifusati munhu otaura kuti hanzi usaenda unotaura nyaya yako iyoyo otanga kutoudzwa kuti iwewe ndiwe unozotsikirwa nenyaya yako because uchazobvunzwa kuti wanga uri kuitei panguva yakadai, wanga uri kuitei pakadai. Aiyewa iwewe izvitore zvaari kutaura izvozvozvo, unyatsoita sei, unyatsozvitora ungozviisa pasaidi iwewe wotoenda kuenderera mberi nekuita sei nekundonoripota. Because ukaripota nyaya yako unokwanisa kubatsirika, especially ukaenda inini nangu yakandibatsira, ukaenda ikoko vanokubatsira zvisingaite zvekuti panguva yacho nekuti ukazviregedza kuzvitaura zvikakura zviri mauri kuzosvika paimwe point yekuti unopedzisira usisiri munhu wekuti zvine zviri normal. Unenge wakungoitira vanhu vese rafu, hauchafarira kuona vanhu, hauchafarira chimwe chinhu chinofanira kunge uchiita hauchafanira kuchiita because unenge une bitterness. Saka ndinongokurudzira kuti vanhu ngatitaure nyaya dzedu, uone rubatsiro pachiri padhuze.
On what seemed to be a normal day in October, her life changed as she was hijacked and raped. Her life would never be the same again.
For me, I think it was around October, September, end of September into October. Ndakakwira taxi yaenda somewhere kwandaienda, then I was hijacked. Taxi I didn't know kuti vanhu vandakwira navo vaizivana. I was 32 my ladies and my gents vangu varimo. And then vakachinja route. Ndakada kubvunza kuti ko muri kuchinja route zvikanzi since kwadoka tikutiza traffic jam iri apa. It's okay. Then bva ndatoona kuti route yatiri kushandisa itori totally different nekwandiri kufanira kuenda. Bva ndabvunza futi. Then they drive kusvika vakunetsana. Then vasati vanetsana vakaratidza kuti vane zvavaida kuita. Then the one of them vandirepa. Lucky enough ndakakwanisa kutiza vasati vandibata vese. Vane argument yavakaita. I don't know kuti vaida kugumira mukurepa here or ndine kwandaitozoendeswa. Ndakwanisa kutiza and ndakwanisa kudzokera kumba that day because ndandisisazive location yandandiri. Pandakazoziva kwandandiri mba ndaenda kunoripota to a police station. Ndaripota to police station, I was referred kuenda kuMbare Edith. So it was late, ndakasvika kwavharwa. I had to go kubasa the following day. Ndaenda kubasa ndo pandakazorifeiwa to ARC. I came ku ARC and I thank God kuti ndakawana ma-services anga right, ndakawana ma-counseling sessions, though it was hard. Kuti uri kubva murep, kuti umixe nevamwe, for me it took time kupinda kukwanisa kuaccepta zvakaitika kwandiri kuti ndipinde mune vamwe. But yeah, through my counseling sessions andaiwana through the help of ARC, ndakwanisa kupinda mune vamwe, kukwanisa kugamuchira kuti ndo zvavepo in life. You have to move on, utongoita ungati pasina zvakaitika, and I thank God kuti ARC is there. Kumira nevanhu vanenge vasangana nematambudziko akaita se-rape or any violence ine yasanganikwa nayo. My advice to women, men out there, if something goes wrong, ukarepwa or ukaitwa zvausiri kuda newe, report. Don't hesitate to report.
Chipo, thank you so much for making time for us. You are the counseling psychologist at ARC.
Yeah.
And I think today has been just hard for me because, I mean, from these young people who are experiencing such trauma, and just finding out that about 22 women get raped daily in Zimbabwe. What does that mean for you? And you are probably the first line of contact with these people when you sit down with them and you hear their stories. What is the process?
Okay, so when they first come into the clinic, we do an intake, and then we make sure that if they need medication, all that is covered, the medical aspect is covered, and then they get referred to us. We then do an assessment to see and an evaluation to see what kind of help they need. So for most people, they'll come in and they're numb and they are not really aware of what they need psychologically or the effect that it has on them. So most of the clients we see or survivors that we see will be like, we just want to cover the medical aspect. And then later on, that's when they start to feel the psychological effects. So usually then there are some who already are presenting with psychological, suicidal, depressed and all that. So we have to assess to see how many times a week do we need to see them, what kind of therapy we are doing with them, that we're going to be doing with them. So we have a few tests that we conduct, and then we ask them if they want to start psychotherapy, because most of them will be like, with the African culture, they don't really feel that they need to, especially on the onset.
It's quite interesting, as you know, for the past few days we've been documenting these stories, and as you actually told me this before, and you said you see that these stories are linked, because we have a lot of these young women saying that I used to have suicidal thoughts, or some still do even want to give up.
Yeah.
And just going back on the issue of, because we're Africans, we don't feel like we need it. Why do you think the psychosocial support is so important for rape survivors?
It's mostly important because there isn't any support in their immediate family, or their current support system are not really supportive because they don't understand the psychological effects. They don't get that you have nightmares. Most will come and be like, arkuzvitisa. They don't understand the impact of the trauma. So for them coming to the clinic, they get seen by the nurses, they get the medical help. To them, that's fine. So that's covered. And to them, they will tell you, I'm supporting, I bring her to the clinic for the reviews. But the other psychological part, the survivors themselves don't understand don't understand what's going through them, like the process, what's happening. I don't understand why I'm feeling depressed. I don't understand why I'm having nightmares. I just don't have an appetite. They don't get it. So they need the psychosocial support to tell them that this is the reason why you're feeling this way. It's because of the trauma. And it's us having to explain to them that it's normal, you're not crazy. And to also explain to their immediate support system that the reason why this child is behaving in this way is because of A, B, C, D. So it's very important for us to give them the psychosocial support.
It's those that are closest to us that can do the worst damage in our lives. It's sometimes the uncles and aunts, those that are meant to protect us.
So this whole thing happened when I was, it started when I was in kindergarten actually, till grade 4. And this person was more of like a relative, but we were not quite close. But I just grew up knowing him as if he was my uncle, something like that. So it just didn't start by actual rape, but it started by other stuff, like, he used to insert his fingers inside my vagina, right? Then until it got to an extent he would sleep with me when my mom is not around. So I think I was 5 by that time. 4, should be 4. I was 5 now, and that's when it started happening. He would come to my place, and after work he would pass by, and maybe sometimes would have dinner with him. Then my mom would tell me to take him halfway since she'll be busy with other things. So it got to an extent that he would insert his fingers inside, and then he would tell me not to tell my mom because he didn't want her to know, and he used to threaten me that if you tell anyone, something will happen to you and your mom. Then so I got scared. I didn't tell anyone. Then I started bleeding. Like whenever I'm peeing, I would bleed. But my mom didn't take it seriously because she thought maybe it's Beazia or something like that. So we just ignored it until Shapira. So my mom got married again when I was in grade 4. It was still happening. It was still up every time. It was happening maybe twice a week or once. Sometimes after 2 weeks.
The same uncle.
Same uncle. So my mom got married again. We moved to Harare. By that time we were staying in Mthuli when it was happening. Then we moved to Harare, and I didn't see him. I ended up forgetting everything. I didn't remember that I was once sexually abused, and it never clicked in my head. Like I had totally forgotten about it until I went back to Mthuli. That was Form 3. And yeah, I would pass by his workplace. That's the first time I saw him. He was by a filling station. I don't remember the name. And then he saw me, and then the first thing he said when he saw me was, "You've grown up, wakuita." So in India I was like, what does that mean? What are you trying to say? But he didn't give me an answer. So everything just started coming back. Like I started getting flashbacks to an extent that it would traumatize me. Even Ndagarara, I would get dreams telling me that he's coming back for me and all that. So I started getting scared, and I was very smart at school, I don't want to lie, but my grades started, and I started having anger issues. I was now an introvert. I didn't want to be around people. Every time after school, I'd back, still sit in my room. I wouldn't do anything, not talk to anyone, just hi, and then I'm in my room. Tomorrow, same thing, I'll bath and go to school. I wouldn't talk much. Any silly mistake or any silly argument with me, I would get cross. Many longer I used to stay with her. Even if she asked me or blame me for something that I didn't do, it would affect me to an extent that I felt like I wasn't, part of the family. She didn't want me.
So all this time you haven't told anyone?
I haven't told anyone.
After the flashbacks?
Even after the flashbacks, I didn't tell anyone. So every day it was just like that. And then I started having arguments with people. I didn't know what was going on to me. I just thought maybe it's just a phase that I got into. Maybe it's part of growing up, when you're a teenager. But it actually went on and on until Form 4. Like I would see him here and there. So the more I saw him, the more the behavior, the character started changing. So pandaimuona dzimwe ndaitochinja kana road. So Form 4, ndatanga umana literally every day, because I would pass by and change out my lessons and he would try to talk to me. And then the other day he was like, you should come to my house. Then I didn't say anything, I just looked at him. Then he's like, no, not alone, you can come with your mom. Can I please have your mother's number and your number? And then I was like, okay. I gave him my mom's number. I told him I don't have a phone, even though I had it. Then I remember I think my mom is the one who gave him my number. I'm quite sure. He called me this other day. He's like, what are you doing? What are you free here? And I got, no, I'm not. And then he wanted me to come and see him. I don't know why, but I didn't feel safe to go to him, so I didn't go. And then I remember the last time I saw him, yes, and he was like, you should pass by Kubasa, I have to buy you lunch and all. I was just like, no, I'm fine, don't worry, it's okay. Then he's like, okay, if you don't want to come Kubasa, you can come Kumba at least. Like he tried by all means to, to kutisa panjimbo pangu ndega, but I didn't know why, but something felt wrong. So I ignored him, and that was the last time I saw him until I came back to Harare. That was Form 5, yeah. I came back here. And then my mom noticed that I wasn't the same anymore. I would isolate myself. I wouldn't go out that much. When she sends me in town, I just do whatever and she noticed that I need 2 minutes, I would end up crying. And I don't have to behavior change, because now I was a very emotional person by that time, and I didn't want. I used to open up certain things, but now even I would keep it to myself. She noticed that I wasn't that friendly to guys anymore, because I used to play with boys growing up. I never played with girls that much. And then she also noticed that, because she even tried to ask me, but I didn't tell her anything. Until I started getting these weird dreams about me when I'm getting married, and then the guy in Africa, he would tell me, you know what, I don't want to get married to you because you got raped. So the same thing came kakawanda over and over again. And then the other one, I used to see him, I'm coming back for you, I need to see you. And then I started seeing those flashbacks, things that I didn't remember about the incident, because I only remembered a few things, but because it was a really long time from creche kusvika grade 4. It's a very long time. So but they started coming back. So it's my Msukuru. Yeah. So she saw me crying in the morning, what's wrong? And then I tried not to tell her. I tried, but she's just quiet. Even Kuchkoro, I'm no longer paying attention, concentration yadzika.
So even say which call the principal even tried to ask me what's wrong, but I didn't. So Elise, sorry, I mean, and then she was like, okay, I think we should tell Mama. But why were you quiet this whole time? Because it's been like 10 years now and you didn't tell anyone. Then I said, you know what, it's fine. And that was Kangano. And then she was like, no, you shouldn't keep this to yourself. You need to tell your mom. Then I said, okay, I really want to tell her, but I don't know where to start. I don't really know what to tell her, because if I'm to tell her, what if it's a stroke, because BP, it's serious, so what will happen after that? And then she's like, no, we have to try. So she's the one I got with Mama, and then I was there to agree with, yes, it's true, this is what happened. Then my mom, that's when she called go child line. Actually, she went to Kobansa, and then best friend there on the other, I think you should go kind of phone our child line, and then they will help you, because she's still young. Case it can be, it can be still even though it's still the case that needs to be done. So my mom phone child line, and then they asked me to come. Then they gave me counseling, then they referred me Kunoko Ak. That's when I started getting counseling. Then this guy, then they found him, and then he said, why is it after 10 years? Why not earlier? Why now? And then he was saying, I don't know this girl. And I've never met a person, and it's terror. And then later on he admitted, yes, I know, he knows me. And that's when I went for court case. We went to Mthuli because that's where it happened. So they told us we're supposed to go there. So I went there. The court case was a bit, I felt I was doing something very wrong. I felt sorry for him at the same time. And I felt like, maybe what if I'm lying to him? This thing happened to Dada. Maybe I'm just making things in my head. Then I was like, but go hospital, my test are unusual. Yeah, something happened to me. So why am I scared? I really had cold feet that day, standing in that box. It was just frightening. I felt very uncomfortable. But the moment he said I didn't do anything to me, that's when I was like, I should fight for my life. I should fight, because this is the only way I can help. Maybe he did this to Wangwana. Maybe I'm not the only one. Because so I was like, why not do it for Wangwana? If I can't do this, then justice won't be served. So I had to do it. Kuramba when push out into Taurens and said, I told them everything, but you know what? Exactly, this is what happened. He's just saying no, but I told them even things that I didn't remember. They started coming back that day. I opened up. I told them. I felt sorry because he didn't have like a lawyer for himself, and the sister was just looking at me crying. So she kind of made me not to want to talk as well, even though I had to. So that's what happened. But ever since I started coming for counseling, I felt, my anger issues.
She was molested by a neighbor. She grew up to be a rebel because of her trauma, and she didn't tell anyone because she knew no one would believe her.
So I was molested by a neighbor. I was around 5. I didn't know what was going on. I was supposed to be going there with my friends at a friend's house. So it was 2 of us. So I think it was because I was bigger or what, I don't know.
Oh.
I was 5, but I was kind of big. So we would go to this guy's house and he would take us to his room. So when my friend, he used to chase my friend away, and then I would be left at his house. So, I thought she just liked me. He would touch me. At first, he just touched me, and I didn't say anything. The next time, he touched my private parts. And then it went on to a point where I would also touch him. He would tell me to touch him on his private parts. It went on for...
And how old was
he was around, I think he was in his late 20s. Yeah. So he's someone whom you'd never suspect. He was like the guy next door. I was very young and I didn't know what was going on. So for me to even understand exactly what was going on, or even to try and go and report to someone, I didn't know what was happening to me was bad. So I kept it to myself. So this was the first incident with this guy. And then it went on to this person now I don't remember. I know it was a female. So this one would take me and a boy, also my age, around 7. Now I was 7. And she would watch us. She at first she told us what to do, like she'd take off our clothes and she would watch us like have sex. And she would change boys, bring them to me, and she would watch. She was also from, I think it was from our neighborhood or a relative, I'm not sure. I can't even recall her face, but I know that it happened. It went on for like 6 years, if I'm not mistaken. For 6 years.
You didn't see anything wrong with this? You didn't feel like you needed to tell anyone?
Not even.
Who did you stay with?
I stayed with my parents, yes. And then they later divorced, but at that time they were still together. My mom was a stay-at-home parent and my dad, she's the one who was working. I had siblings, but I didn't tell anyone. I kept it to myself. The other incident, I was now 16. I was I was in my teens. I was having fun. I was now the problem child everyone was talking about. Now this guy raped me. I knew what was going on. When it happened, when he violated me, I wanted to go and report, but then I was like, who is going to believe me? I mean, already I'm being labeled the troublesome child. I'm the black sheep of the family. So who's going to believe me of all people? I took my torn clothes, took my jacket, ripped, and then I tied it on my waist and I went back home. I had gone to visit my aunt. So that particular day, I just thought, I want to go home. My aunt had left for SA and I was left at her house. My uncle had already left. So this guy was like, I will take you to your house. So when we were driving to go to my house, it was far. So we had to drive. Instead of taking public transport, he said he would drive me. So he was like, I'm going to stop by at a friend's house. And now it was around 6. And we went into the room. That's when he forced himself on me. I couldn't even scream. I couldn't even cry. I just lay there motionless. I couldn't do anything. All I did was just freeze. It's like everything froze at that time. Nothing. I was not in that. I was there physically, but emotionally was not there. So after that he left. All I did was take my clothes, put on my clothes. They were ripped. I just had to cover myself, and now I had to walk home, and it was quite a distance. I went home and acted like nothing happened. But it took me years to finally talk about it. A certain lady I met at a function, in fact it was my boss. We were talking, that's when I told her. And she was like, I think you should go to ARC and try and get help. That's when I came here. To think the first day I almost went back. I was so scared. I've never been scared like that my entire life. I don't know what I was afraid of. I came here and then I went to the reception. I saw a lady at the reception. Then I was like, I know I'll come back tomorrow. She was like, no, come back. the welcome itself made me open up. And then I was taken to a psychologist. They did tests and all that. At first I was like, no, these people are going to be wasting my time. There's no way I'm going to open up. What exactly? I mean, it's been almost 20, it was now 30 years later. I'm now facing my fears and facing all this trauma. I mean, I'm an adult. That's what I was telling myself. I'm an adult. You should just move on, stop acting like a baby. I kept telling myself that. And then I started talking to my therapists. That's when I saw that I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of anger issues. I was very easy to just snap like that. If someone especially males, if you were like to even pass a comment, whether I don't know at work, I know at my first job I almost got fired for punching someone. So I was not really comfortable with males. I would always see them as predators. Everyone who represented the males, I would see them as predators. The comments, they even just look in my direction. I'd feel like maybe now he's checking me out. He's just going to, do something. He's going to violate me. It took counseling, the therapy, especially the support groups. They were really nice. It's easy to talk to someone who's been through what you have been through. Hearing other people's stories and seeing that you are not alone in this world and you can actually conquer this. I mean, now I talk about it and I don't even cry. I used to cry. I would have stopped maybe a few minutes into the story. I would have stopped. But now I'm a better person and I'm working towards helping others. Those who are, especially during the COVID, we started, I was working towards a podcast, but I had a WhatsApp group for women. We talk about it. We are just completely from different areas. We've never met, but we talk about it. We talk about our traumas. We talk about what we've gone through. It's because of what ACT did for me. And I think everyone deserves that. We all deserve to feel safe. I never felt safe in my own home. I didn't want to go out. I was so depressed. I tried to commit suicide more than 5 times. At one time, I overdosed on pills. Another time, I drank, it was some pesticides. Another time, I drank, I think it was also pills. Another time, I tried to strangle myself. There was a time I would take sharp objects and cut myself or hit myself. Those were my coping mechanism. Now I meditate, or I read, or I try to talk to someone. I can just call my therapist and say, no, today I'm feeling low. This is how I feel. And she told me how to cope. And now I'm at a good place.
How the people closest to us react or respond to a rape situation plays a key role. She was raped by her father's friend, and until this day, her father refuses to speak to her about it.
Okay. Yeah, it was 2019. I was in Form 4. Ndandinde gamba. Then akauya achitsvaga daddy. Abva vashaya. Mukuvashaya, like, tatakagara ndichiona TV. Yakabva take advantage of that because I was alone kumba. Then ndopa akabva andirepa, abva andisiya. Ndandafonera mama. Then ndabva ndaudza friend yavo ndiyakazondiakambana kuenda kupolice. Then I was referred kuno clinic. Pakurecover zvakatora time because zvakatondisturba mastudies angu. Ndaifanira ndichinyora that year. Anotozonyora 2019 iyo ndakazonyora 2020 because nandisaenda kuchikoro. Noti munhu wachona is scary because ndaitotya kana kufamba long distances. Yeah, vakaudzwa in fact namama because inini I'm too close namama. Then pavakaudzwa namama I didn't react zvekuti mwana wavo aitwa zvakashata.
havana kureact, ndakabva ndangoenda kumapurisa nefriend yamama. Iye wachona the perpetrator aya munhu ndaingova dead because he's my dad's friend, so ndiri baba ndakavatarisa. So mukudaro I don't know kuti chiwo chachavapinda. Mapurisa pandikasvika pandikanoripota, like matambirwo andikaitwa hapana handingati zvakashata kwasi vanganditi vakandibvunza zvinhu zvanga vasingafaniri kubvunza because vakandibvunza by that moment wakatobatirira here. Akasungwa but akaita 2 weeks njawa apabuda atori panze as we speak. Zvinorwadza but handina zvekuzviita because I'm still young. The fact yekuti ndichirogara under his roof, so handina zvekuzviita. But sometimes I will just move out, nomboenda kwagogo ndogara nagogo. Meno kana vachiri kuwirirana, I don't know, because kwavanenge vari hausi neusiku. Like my mother mareactero akaita munhu ane BP, vakatombodonha neBP patime yachona iyoyo. Ndiye munhu akanyanyorwadziwa kwasi nanhasi kana kukunzwaya kumasupport groups ndovanotombondiperekedza sometimes. Munhu achiri kutondityira kutoti ndibude kuenda somewhere without her. By that time chakanyanya ndaafecta inyaya yemastudies angu 1 2 nansi sina confidence, but for now ndane confidence. Handichatombotya kana kufamba, but semubereki wanenge achityira mwana wake. Ndakavaudza mama, but she was like, siyana nazvo, just let it go. Pamwe achazoreacta kumberi kwameno because zvakatopfuura 2019. Like sometimes ZANU-PF achita like he is angry with everyone. Paanodzoka meno zvanenge vaitwa kwanenge vabva here meno vanongosvika vachiita hasha like ini handiwanzogara navo like zvatikaita zvinozvi handina time nazvo. Totaurawo like tichibvunzana zvinenge zvichidiwa panguva yacho neyo, but hatina any conversation yatinoita as a parent nemwana. Kutaura vakataura, but vaitaura ine hashwa vachitonge ndine mhosva, so ndakangozvinyararawo zvakadaro. I think panotofanira iswa someone anenge ari social worker pamapolice, every police station, because mamwe maquestions anenge achikubvunza they are not necessary at all. Ndikauya kunoku mabatirwo andikaitwa it was good, I don't wanna lie. Ndakatofeel as if ndina mama paside, because pandikaona ma-counselors, they helped me. Though sometimes ndanda kuita ma-online sessions, noda kuti ndanda kustarta ndiri mukumba, so ndaisakwanisa kuuya ndichiuya pama-therapy angu. Vakandibatsira ngwaro.
My name is Florida Rumbidzai-Mapeto, and I am a communications officer here at Adult Rape Clinic. And I think from the stories that we've heard our survivors talk about, it's easy to come to an understanding of where we come from as an organization and basically why we do what we do. So from when the organization was formed in 2009, we've seen a total of maybe 1,500 survivors per year. And these are new survivors that are walking into our doors for the very first time. And this shows, I think, for just one clinic, this is Harare that I'm talking about, and the other organizations in Zimbabwe who are also seeing survivors of sexual violence. And this shows the magnitude really of the problem that we have. I think I was listening to one of the survivors as they were talking, and one of the key questions that they raised was, I was asked on why I'm now reporting now. Why now after 10 years, 15 years? I think it's easy to understand from the cultural backgrounds that we come from in Zimbabwe. You realize that people will say, wakadi kutaura, baba vako kuti vakakurepa. I mean, this is a father. Before we even consider someone to be a perpetrator, we look at the relationship that we have with the person. And just to put it back into numbers, over 70% of the survivors that we see at ARC, they're perpetrated by someone that they know, someone that they've had a relationship with. So it's either a friend, it's a neighbor, it's a parent, it's someone maybe they thought they were dating. So there's a lot of date rape that occurs in this country as well. So it's never really a stranger as we think. There are other provinces in the country like Bulawayo where you would hear more rapes by strangers than by people that are close to you. But in Harare and other provinces, it's a friend, it's a neighbor, it's an uncle, it's a sister, because I also don't want to leave out that even men are also affected by rape. So from just looking at it from the surface, you realize, Kuti, yes, Zimbabwe has a problem. The recent study that was done, I think in 2018, actually proves that we have about 22 rapes that are conducted in Zimbabwe on a daily basis. But these are reported. So from where I'm standing, we're also talking about the ones that are not reporting, which could actually amount to 1 rape every hour. So all the time that we've been sitting here, someone somewhere is getting raped. And that is a scary thing to think about, because where do we put a stop to it? I would say from our gender and advocacy desk as ARC, we could be going out into communities, you know what, women, stop dressing like this, because we've gone out and people will say, you need to, women are dressing in provocative ways, they're provoking us. And we could as well go out and tell communities, women, can you dress in a way that is modest or that is deemed modest so you do not get raped? But what do we then say the next day when there's a newspaper article that's saying a woman who was coming from church was raped, all night prayer, dress? What do we then say about the youngest survivor of rape in Zimbabwe, who at a date stands at 3 days old?
These survivors are now in the process of healing to try to restore what's been broken.
I'm happy now I can open up and tell them my story, even though it still kind of affects me here and there, but I'm fine now.
And now I'm at a good place.